Capitol Reef National Park was the third national park we were going to go to in southern Utah. And here's where it is on the map, and it's in south central Utah. But one thing I noticed on the maps was a place right near it called Grand Staircase Escalante National Monument. And it intrigued me because it's reputed to be the last area in the lower 48 United States that was surveyed, and it's a huge area, 2,000 square miles, 2,921 square miles. It gets 900,000 visitors a year. It's at a high elevation, sort of the same as Bryce Canyon, around 8,000 feet. And it's big. It's really big. It's bigger than all the other national parks in southern Utah combined. So the biggest national park that we're going to see was still coming up, Canyonlands, at 527 square miles. And all the national parks get many more visitors per year. But this is a huge area, and it intrigued me. It's desolate and little explored, so I had to see this. So when you do Google Maps and you want to go from Bryce Canyon to the town nearest Capitol Reef where we were going to stay, Torrey, Utah, it recommended this route, but I wanted to take the other route that goes through Grand Staircase so I could take a look at it. And that's the way we went. And this is the view of Grand Staircase looking southeast. I don't know how far you can see in this picture, but the overall land area of Grand Staircase is bigger than the states of Rhode Island and of Delaware. If you put the two of them together, it'd be greater than Grand Staircase, but Grand Staircase is bigger than each of those states. So it's just huge, and it stretches all the way to the Arizona border. And this was the road we were going to take after stopping at this lookout point, and it's just carved right out of the rock. It's just a total barren, rocky place, but beautiful. So let me show you what we saw when we stopped at that rest stop. The Grand Staircase Escalante. That's the road we're going to be traveling on way down there. It winds down. They're just having a class here, Cal State University Long Beach, their geology program. This road was built by the CCC. What a road, what an area. Just mostly rock. I'll take pictures of this. They have slot canyons here too, like in Zion National Park. So I think this is officially a national monument, but it's a national park. I was just saying to my wife earlier that national monuments are equally well done as our national parks, and this is bigger than some of the national parks we've been to. It's bigger than Zion or Bryce, which are huge. I'm generally looking east. It's right around noon, and we see a lot of these storm fronts that come over the mountains and have local rain. It's probably raining to the north there. Still see a little snow in some of the, I call them promontories or plateaus, whatever you want to call them. And one woman who worked at the under campus place that we just stayed at told us that they had 10 feet of snow here that was still melting as of April, and this is late May, so it hasn't been dry like this for that long, but there's still rain clouds we've encountered every day. Unbelievable. Grand Staircase, Escalante National Monument, southern Utah. So we looked a little longer, and I used the telephoto, had our picture taken, and then we got back on the road to continue through the Grand Staircase Escalante, and we stopped one more time to look at what we could see. These are pictures from the video that I showed at the start of part 1 of this series. That was Grand Staircase Escalante. What a major find. I call it like the 6th national park that we went to. It's a national monument managed by the Bureau of Land Management, and it's comparable to the national parks that are managed by the National Park Service. So our next national park was Capitol Reef. And here's a view at the visitor center looking over the roof of the visitor center, just more stunning scenery. And you have a road that you can drive down, and we drove to the end, and this is looking down a canyon at the southern end of the drive. Unfortunately, this was closed, again due to potential flash flooding. So we adhered to the signs, and I had to stop off at more places coming back to take pictures. Beautiful. And that's what might be considered a reef. I'll explain that further. And you drive along the road, and the canyon is like on the east side, and then it's sort of a plateau flat to the west. And then one of the places you see right when you first come in is Chimney Rock Trail. And it's like a 3.5-mile hike, popular trail, and that's Chimney Rock. Let me take you there. Now we're at Capitol Reef National Park. Another fantastic national park. Gonna check out the visitor center. Storm clouds are coming. This is the color of Capitol Reef. We're at Capitol Reef National Park, and it's a beautiful national park. The amount of area you can actually go to with your car is very small. It's just this one little road. And we wanted to drive down further, but actually the road turns to gravel, but it's closed because of potential flooding. They've had rain earlier in the day, and you can see it's overcast here, but it's just fantastic, beautiful looking. So I'll bet this drive through this canyon would have been something, but if the rangers tell you you can't go, you can't go. So anyway, I just want to give you a little flavor of this beautiful national park. They're giving an astronomy talk tonight at the auditorium. We're not going to be able to go because we're staying outside of the park, and we don't want to drive at night.
into the park and then back out again. But there's also a heavy emphasis on geology here, so it's really interesting. Capitol Reef. Since we couldn't go all the way down, I just wanted to stop and shoot some more footage of some more of the fantastic scenery on the way back to the visitor center. There's the General 360. So this is kind of the landscape in the valley. And then you've got these incredible cliffs. And it was focused on this huge area where it's sort of flat. You'll see dramatic facades of the canyons like that, just unbelievable. And then these are like multiple chimneys. And we'll see another place where there's a freestanding column like this, closer to the main entrance to the park. Here at Capitol Reef. So Reef, why is it a reef? And why is it called Capitol Reef? I can't say anything about the capital part, but this was where, I think it's the borderline of where there was the vast inland sea millions of years ago, when the Pacific came way further inland, and this is about as far as it came into Utah. So this is looking north-south roughly. Just fantastic. So here's the trailhead for the Chimney Rock Trail, and that's it right there. But the trail takes you up and you gain like a 500-foot elevation change, 600 foot, and you walk up along the rim and around, and it's a strenuous hike. They say it's like 3.5 miles round trip. So it's one of the things to do here at Capitol Reef. Very distinctive looking. Chimney Rock.
From Capitol Reef National Park, we stayed at the nearby town of Torrey, Utah. And we stayed at one of a few places that was in this area called the Capitol Reef Resort. And as the name might imply, it makes you sort of feel like you are still in the national park, even though you're staying at a private place. And this place had everything, it had a lot going on, but it had these teepees you could stay in. My wife looked into it. She thought it'd be pretty cool to stay in a teepee. So we would be going from a tent to a teepee, but they were all booked. But you can see the views in the background of this picture. This is the location it's in. So where we stayed was like kind of a motel-ish type place on the right side, and it was next to the horse stables that you can go horseback riding. And they also have llamas. I don't know whether you ride a llama or you just walk alongside a llama. What you do with a llama. But the main attraction for me was looking out the back deck at the surrounding cliffs and canyons. Just a really breathtaking location. And this is what I was looking at and taking lots of pictures of. So let me show you a little bit more from our view from our back deck.
This is the view on our back deck of where we're staying in Torrey, Utah. Best view from any room where we've stayed. It's like 7:30 in the morning and everybody's up and at 'em. There's a horse riding stable where they also have llamas next to us. There were big storm clouds over these hills yesterday afternoon. Thought it was going to rain, but it didn't rain. And that's the road we'll be taking heading east toward Moab, our next stop, to go see Canyonlands National Park and Arches National Park. This is a stop on the road in the park to see petroglyphs. Let's see what there is to see here. What a sheer face.
Michael Kuvan. My name is Rick Pickavet. My southern Paiute ancestors were roaming and hunting the canyon south of here when white settlers arrived in the 1880s. Long before the Mormon pioneer or any tribal memory, other Native American peoples came to know the canyons and cliffs of the waterfront road. We call them the Fremont culture because we don't know what they call themselves. Unlike my own ancestors, the Fremont people did not move with the changing seasons. They took root in these water canyons and became farmers as well as hunter-gatherers. They left few signs, even though they lived here longer than the 5 centuries between the voyage of Columbus and the present day. Other people like them lived.
Okay, so while that narration was going on, I was trying to find where on the rocks I was supposed to be looking, and finally I saw another signage and another sign, and it pointed in the direction. So if you looked right where it told you to look, then you could then see the hieroglyphics along the wall. So this is it. This is what was done, I don't know, 500, 600 years ago by Native Americans. Anyway, it's something, but it's time to move on. See what else there is to say. So as we were driving down the road, I didn't see a sign specifically pointing to what was considered a capital looking rock, but this was one of them. This might be what is considered capital rock. There's a close up. And I go, yeah, I can see how maybe they said that looked like the US Capitol. And that's how you get Capitol Reef. One of the rocks looks like the US Capitol. And the reef part, there's two stories. One I've heard is that it was so impassable to go through this area, it was like a reef. But that didn't sound like too strong of a story. But then there was also informational signage at Capitol Reef in the visitor center that showed how the Earth, how the continent looked way back when. And you see in this one picture, and Utah is outlined, the Pacific Ocean came all the way in to approximately this area. So this could have been the reef at the edge of the ocean in primordial days. And here's another rock that could be Capitol Rock. It's just a sheer rock. So it's a really interesting part of the park. It's kind of like Zion. You look at the one part, which is a canyon, and then you go east-west and it turns into a very rocky area. And that was sort of the same case at Capitol Reef, which is a canyon running north-south, and then you take another road going east-west, only this road was not crazy, curvy, hairy, and steep like the one in Zion. So we continue to go east, and we're on this Route 24 to go to Hanksville. And one thing was, and I wish I would have shot video, but I don't think it would have come out very well going through this area. But just like Capitol Reef and Bryce Canyon were very bright yellow, bright orange, this area we drove through was very black. It was just amazing. It was just amazing for its lack of color. And I just call it Black Canyon. It's just to the east of Canyonlands National Park, and it was quite a drive. My wife started to fall asleep, and I almost wanted to say, hey, you should see what I'm seeing as we're driving along the road, but she missed it. But I just couldn't get over how dark and black everything was. Also, it was in the morning, so maybe that was adding shadows to the effect, but it just amazing. And there was just like no plant life at all. And then there were these solitary promontories as we were going along, just rising right up out of the flat area that was very arid, so it was bordering on a desert. But these just look so fantastic to look at as we were driving along. And here's another promontory. It might be the same one I just showed you, but it just gives you a unique perspective as you're driving along. So we're going to get to Hanksville, and then if you continue down, if the road continued on, you'd go straight to Canyonlands and you'd get there quickly. But there isn't a road that goes to Canyonlands, so we're going to have to take a roundabout approach. So one route that I kind of wanted to go on was to go south and go through, it sounded like a canyon that's exact opposite of what we just drove through, which was like a black canyon. There's a thing on the map called White Canyon, and you'd have to go down south and then up through something called the Bears Ears National Monument, and then up to Moab, and then Canyonlands and Arches would be north of that. Or there was a shorter route, which my wife preferred, to go up to the interstate, go east, and then come back down south and go to the national parks. So that's the route we took. But this is where we were making our decision. which way to go. And it's a Sinclair gas station, but what got me was it had a little store and rest area facilities in a rock protruding from ground level. So I thought that was fascinating. And there's another angle. Let me show you.
Went through some unbelievable territory coming east from Capitol Reef National Park. And now this is the not much to look at little town of Hanksville. So if you're ever wondering what Hanksville looks like, but they have a view of these snow-capped mountains to the south. And it just was in this little travel center. It's built into this rock. Never been in a travel center like that. Everybody else is just treating it like a regular 7-Eleven, but I thought it was pretty unique. All right, back on the road. In the outback here in southern Utah, on the way to Moab.